en Angleterre, ça commence à être un peu tard. So we're going to go back to the UK market, and we're going to go back to Ian. So Ian, if you can open up your camera and so on. So as we said, this presentation from Ian is going to be precisely on the prefab market, the wood frame market in the UK. And maybe, Ian, there's one term that you're using, and that's MMC. And just to explain to the auditors, it means modern methods of construction, I believe.
That's
So
right.
it includes a lot of different things, if I understand correctly.
Yes, yeah. Have you got the start of the presentation on the screen there?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, do you want me to go?
Yeah. Yeah, please.
Okay, I'll just talk about modern methods of construction. It's just the standard terminology that we're using over here in the UK and perhaps throughout Europe, but basically manufactured construction. So rather than on-site brick and block buildings, making them out of concrete or things that are on-site activities, anything made in a factory is off-site MMC, a modern method of construction. Okay, so that's just the standard terminology. It definitely is the future over here in the UK. I look after, I'm the managing director and owner of a company called Eco Homes Direct. We've been trained and guided by the Canadian Super E concept of air tightness, insulation and ventilation, whole house approach. So we were trained about 8 or 9 years ago. I flew over to Toronto, got trained by the Canadian government, and we brought the concept into the UK in the early days of timber frame and lobbied the UK government to get on board with, instead of building brick and block caves that were cold and drafty to live in, that we would go more to an airtight, low energy, healthier living environment, which is now, after all these years, starting to take off big time. The UK government, there's some highlights here. UK government, Homes England, £7.4 billion of funding available now for the next 5 years for off-site MMC projects focused on affordable, low energy, healthy, reduced carbon, sustainable homes for all. But the UK government is pouring money into upgrading our old housing stock. There's 26 million houses that need retrofitting in the UK, and there's a new wave of doing things, construction in a factory wherever possible, particularly for housing. And they're prepared to put money behind their efforts, and will give you grants and loans to get on board and produce these future construction concepts. The new building regulations, to promote that even harder, they're going to increase all of the performance levels for new housing, higher insulation, air tightness, reduced carbon, improved living environment. So this will force off-site big time, because brick and block won't be able to achieve the airtight concepts that these new performance requirements will need. Okay. Just back to a sort of roughly what we're going to speak about just very quickly. The last couple of years has been pretty much a perfect storm. We thought we were through it after we divorced ourselves from the rest of Europe and hit Brexit, bureaucracy gone crazy, transport queues left over on the continent and in the UK. It's taken us a long time, 2 years now, to try and get ourselves in order. But we are now moving out into the global marketplaces, resourcing our supplies and trying to keep neighbourly involvement with our European friends. Then we had the pandemic, and then we had the global warming issue, where climate issues have got to be addressed, and housing is a big energy user. Energy costs are flying through the roof, and now when we thought we were just through all the pain, now we're into the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And of course, we don't have to mention the royal family and all the difficulties that they've had to face with the death of Prince Philip and now Prince Andrew and all the money he's had to pay out. So we don't mention that. 2021 was actually a good year for construction. We were coming out quite healthily from COVID. We built around about 200,000 homes per year. New house builds is about sort of average for us, although we've had quite a few years at not less than that. But 200,000 was sort of average. That's where brick and block could build processes could regularly achieve. But the government said that's not enough. We need bigger. We need more. We want 300,000 houses per annum. And basically brick and block national contractors can't seem to grasp that they've got to find a solution to do that. But the government said, you move into off-site MMC, modern methods of construction, use timber wherever possible, and you'll find a way of building faster, building better, and you'll even address climate issues. We will put money behind these programs if you do it. They've been a bit reticent because warranty providers have been nervous to support or insure timber frame concept houses, even though they're lower energy and faster to build. They've been nervous about their longevity. So that's been a lot of work that the industry's had to put in to try and get them on side. And that's all happened last year. And the fashion has moved from a fashion timber frame housing into a sort of a has to be, because of all the COVID and health and safety restrictions that everybody had to address, extra costs. A lot of people started realizing that making the majority of the superstructure in the factory has got to be a sensible approach in these changing times. The solution is greener, and that's the concept that everybody's moving forwards on for the future. Just a little bit about our present situation in the UK. The UK inflation rate's running at 6.2%. We've been trying to keep it below 2% for quite several years now, and we've been quite successful at that. But energy's just gone through the roof, food's going through the roof, transport's going through the roof. Everything's changing, and the invasion of Russia on Ukraine is causing a major problem on energy supplies across Europe. Although the UK is not dependent on more than 4% of its energy supplies directly from Russia. So we're less affected than mainland Europe. Our interest rates have risen, although they're still very low. We're moved up to 0.75% interest rates, 6.2% inflation. But the good news is our unemployment levels have dropped to 3.9 million. So we're actually employing more people than ever, and our productivity in our manufacturing was going great guns up until the end of 2021 and the early part of 2022. Everybody predicting we had major house rises in 2021, and you can see that we had quite a strong pound to the euro on the left-hand chart there. The UK stock market's doing okay. It's rebounded after COVID, and we can also see that the Swedish krona against the British pound has strengthened, which has forced the price of timber up into the UK, as much of our timber for manufacturing for timber frame housing comes from Scandinavia. This is another inflationary problem. House prices have soared. So that's the good news. All the national contractors are making record profits. Haven't expected this to happen, but everybody wants to move out of the central parts of major cities and go and live out in the country and work from home. So they want bigger houses with garden offices, and the demand for new housing with large gardens has just exploded. So now our average house price has gone up, as you can see, to around about £280,000. That's a smallish unit, perhaps a 3 or 4 bedroomed house. That's the average price. But you can see there in the COVID recovery, we were sort of semi-shut down about the first or second quarter of 2020, but we've rebounded back to around about 40,000 monthly new housing builds every month, 40,000. UK new home starts, you can see there it's regularly from 2015, 193,000, moving across the years up to 2021, 221,000 new house starts. This is a market valuation in 2021 of around about 36 billion pounds worth of activity in UK housing construction. The types of where nearly the new housing is going. This was 2019 to 2020. Early 2020, we had the COVID lockdown, so we all lost the momentum during that year, and you can see this drop back. But all in all, around about 38 billion pounds worth of activity in new housing was still going on in the COVID lockdown year. And you can see the graph there, just under 99 billion pounds worth of construction activity in that difficult year. But this year, in 2021, I haven't got it on this graph, but it will be rebounded back up to around about that 120 billion mark. Just away from housing for a second, a quick look at where there's a lot of other activity where modern methods of construction are gaining ground. And you can see that the government has pushed industries together or departments together. There's the Department for Education, the Health and Social Care Department, the Ministry of Communities and Local Government, the Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of Defence, all building projects that are being handled by those government organisations are to collaborate together to find ways to use automated, made in the factory processes. And this has resulted in a lot more modular and volumetric building activity. And you can see they've got a £50 billion 5-year new build pipeline that they're working on. And I think they're pushing harder and harder into it, putting all that business as much as they can into MMC made in the factory processes. Timber frame, new build housing in 2021, timber frame 20%, although it's usually we include SIPs in there and CLT, which would knock that up to 25%. So the total housing market is 65% brick and block. That's the standard traditional, as they say, way of building a house in the UK, although timber frame was as low as 4% some 15 years ago when it had a World in Action programme that set it back a long time, and it slowly climbed its way back up to 25% and growing. The new house completion self-build in timber frame is 6%, build to rent is 10%, and the housing associations and councils, the government money is around about 25%. But the private market sector is still controlling the off-site market. So even though the off-site timber frame market is 25%, all of these sectors are introduced and using it. And the one that's growing fast is the housing associations, the RSLs, where the government insists that government money that they're paid is spent on priority given to off-site MMC, particularly in timber frame. 2021, if you take the 200,000 houses that we built and we're 25%, that's 50,000 units in timber frame. That doesn't sound so much, although if you think that there's 10 cubic meters per house, that's quite a lot of timber. The social housing side is increasing because obviously as we come out of COVID, the government is trying to get everybody back to work, hence the drop in unemployment. And they're using the construction industry, which is labour intensive, to get the economy going again. And they're awarding large infrastructure and housing projects and freeing up the planning process to start building more and more houses to meet their new targets of 300,000 houses per year. So if you look at the UK timber frame manufacturers particularly, there's a shortish list of of the main players there, but still 60% is still in the hands of the much smaller outfits. Maybe they make 200 houses a year or 500 houses maximum, whereas these bigger guys will be making somewhere towards 1,000 to 3,000 houses a year. So it's quite a fragmented industry still at the moment, but the STA, the Structural Timber Association, is trying to pull all of this together, get everybody under one umbrella, give them credibility, get the warranty providers on board, and have a concept where quality and precision is instilled in the manufacturer's processes, so that everybody can have confidence of the longevity of timber frame houses. So we're talking about 2021, 50,000 units of timber frame houses into the market. Nearly all of that was in open panel systems. 2022-24, everybody's pushing for closed panel system, more done in the factory, more value added in the factory. The whole process of the wall right through to fully closed with electrical sockets and conduits, and all the insulation and the airtightness built in. Better quality, faster build time, safer working environments, and guaranteed performance. However, we have a big problem. We don't have the capacity, and we are lacking in experience in making these types of systems that need guarantees to go with them on their performance, whereas open panel was just a commodity type product. Closed panel systems, again, they're getting talked about more and more, and some companies are really starting to focus on it big time. And it is improving speed on site, it is improving quality of workmanship, and they are finding that if they can put whole projects onto these type faster systems, they're saving 30 to 40%, maybe even 50% in time on finishing their projects. Volumetric, just to mention that, and modular, there's quite a large market, although it's just under £1 billion total market. It's a difficult one. Volumetric, there are quite a few producers in this, but it doesn't generally go into housing, which is only about 10% of the market for volumetric. It tends to focus on the portable accommodation and education, maybe some hotels and other industrial type units. So it doesn't really get pushed at housing. It's too, it's not flexible enough to try and meet the different national contractors' aspirations. UK companies in volumetric, just to give you a quick list there, some of these are quite large. All of them have capital expenditures that are enormous, and nearly all of them have gone for partnershiping type arrangements, either with government to lend them money or with other larger companies who can finance their growth. But it is a big market and it will continue to grow. But not many people have made big money in this volumetric and modular business. It's a long gestation period to get established and make sure you've got a continuous order file for a couple of years ahead. Here, manufacturers of CLT and glulam. This is actually a very much a growing market. It certainly concentrates not particularly on housing, it's more on commercial projects or high-rise projects. And you can see nearly all of the production is outside of the UK. It's in Germany, it's in Scandinavia, and we tend to have to import all of this material. Spain is another company that's mentioned. And they tend to have UK companies who specialize in these types of bigger projects, and CLT, obviously with its strength characteristics, tends to do quite well because of the warmth and the natural nature of the product and the sustainable and reduced carbon benefits that it can bring to these programs that the government is insisting that we focus on. National contractors, they're the big guys in the housing game. Barratt Developments are particularly one of the biggest, and they also own a small timber frame operation in Scotland, Oregon Timber, and they've been promoting timber frame, highly insulated, low energy concept houses for many, many years, and they're doing quite well. But even that, out of all the homes that they sold last year, only about 30% were actually in timber frame, and they're one of the forerunners. The Simon Group, they do quite a lot as well. They have their own factory space for Taylor Wimpey and all these other big names in the national contractor house building sector. They've all dabbled with it, but generally the average involvement by most of these big companies is no bigger than 25% at the moment. But they all have aspirations to make it bigger, and they all see it as a fast build system process, a quality delivering product, and it meets the aspirations of the new building regulations for low energy, healthier living environments and reduced carbon aspirations set by the government. Housing associations, this is where government money is put. And the government money is putting their money and saying, right, you're going to spend it on the things we want you to do. We want you to deliver affordable housing. We want you to use only off-site MMC systems. And we will give you, and particularly if you use timber, social housing grants with a 10% extra uplift. And we're going to make Homes England £7.8 billion pot of money in grants and loans available to anybody who will involve themselves in focusing on off-site MMC timber frame. Off-site timber frame trends, our real problem is capacity. The second problem is experience of closed panel systems, but the capacity needs to be resolved, and it needs to be resolved fast. We have a shortfall over the next couple of years, and we need to find a way of increasing manufacturing production in closed panel systems by 140% before 2025, just to meet the government's targets of 300,000 houses and 40% of off-site MMC. We're made wise not by the recollection of our past, but by the responsibility of our future, said George Bernard Shaw. So I'm sure the future is bright and safe. Let the sun shine in and bring us some peace. And thanks for listening to me today. Thank you. Okay, any questions?
Yeah, fantastic, Ian. Thank you very much. Questions? Alain, would you like to come in and comment? Or yeah, please.
Yes, I'm coming.
Yeah, Ian, you can shut down your share, please.
Okay.
So, Jan, thank you. I know you spent a lot of time doing those two presentations. You did a great job, so I thank you for that. Jan, I have a very simple question. Might not be easy to answer, though. If you were in the shoe of a prefab producer, wall panel, roof truss, floor truss, Quebec producer, and you would like to export a structure for a project, let's say a flat 40 units project or whatever, how can we make sure that our Quebec products will be accepted to enter on the UK market? We talked in your other presentation about UKCA. So do we have to go to get the approval by a local engineer on all the products we're going to send? Do we need to get a nationwide approval by the UK authorities? What do we have to do?
Okay, well, a couple of things. Canadian Super E, the concept and the how can I put it, low energy, healthier build process that they marketed in the UK is still very well known by Trada and by all the building associations who guarantee building performance in the UK. So first of all, Canadian Super E was highly thought of and regarded as good as passive house type solutions to low energy housing. So Canadian Super E has already got a footprint here in the UK, and we as Eco Homes are one of the only, I think we actually have the main license for the UK to promote that concept. So first of all, there's a lot of hard work being done by the Canadian government, and it's well known. Secondly, you've already, in that era of Super E, about 10 years ago, built quite a few houses, more houses than passive houses at the time. And there's quite a few Canadian Super E concept houses around the UK, maybe 1,000 or 1,500 that you could show people. And they've been around and up for quite some time. Thirdly, I spoke to Trada just to confirm, perhaps I tried to answer that question before. The wall panel systems in Europe never got asked in the end to put a CE mark on them. They don't need to be certified because they couldn't get one standardized product because there were so many different producers throughout Europe making a wall system in so many different ways, they couldn't get a standard conformity on it. So it never actually got applied to a wall system. So there is no barrier to having to have a UK CA stamp on a wall system. However, that said, the warranty providers like NHBC, Premier Guarantee, and all these people who insure houses for up to 10 years when you get a new house, they do look to something to look at. And they will be asking questions. Are you ISO 9000? Are you 14001? These types of standard management quality control systems in place. And I think, according to my discussions with Trada, there is no need for a UK CA stamp on a standard wall type system or even anything you supply from Canada. You can use Canadian engineers to engineer it. They're highly regarded. As long as they're certified by your national organizations, it's as good as a UK one. So I've checked with Trada. There is no barrier, no special certification that you need for wall systems or whole house systems coming from Canada.
But this brings me to a sub-question. You said that the future is use closed insulated panel instead of open panel.
Yes.
But you are aware that if we ship closed panel from Quebec, it means that you have insulation, vapor barrier, plywood, studs, air barrier, nails, different type of materials, all Canadian, but not CE or not European material. So how this package will be accepted in the UK?
Well, I'm guessing you have your own quality performance criteria in Canada. You just have to sit down and agree it with the warranty provider like NHBC and say, look, this is as good as a CE mark in Europe. Not that we use CE marks now anyway. So we're in a period of transition at the moment. I don't think anybody quite knows what they're supposed to be marking. But it could be possible that there are international companies that, like Norboard OSB, for instance, that's produced in the UK, but it's also produced in North America. So you could be using the same products or the same company, and there probably would be ways of guaranteeing an equivalent standard, if you see what I mean.
If we get a local UK engineer stamp on our drawings and products, is it helpful?
Yes, of course that's helpful. I mean, the other thing you can do, you could have your wall system tested by Trada QMark or by BBA, British Board of Agrement, and you get a certificate to say it does what it says it does. So you can do that, but then the trouble is each company would have to have their own BBA mark, and unless you could get to sort of a standardized panel system, but each panel system that's different would have to get its own certification. So that's a bit of an expensive exercise, but
yep.
No, it's not a problem. Trada says it's one of these things that never got resolved with Europe, and it's an open house. So I think Trada would be on our side as regards Canadian products coming to the UK.
Okay, so thank you, Jan, for your answers.
Okay, thanks.